All right, today we have Navara here. And before we get into that, we got a new camera. Shout out Zach Flores and go to that camera now. I'll give you guys a second if you're watching this on Spotify, but if you're on Apple Music, sorry. But yeah, we have a new camera, and hopefully, if you're able to see that, then that means it went well in editing and it made the shot. And you can see all this, the fact that it's not perfect and all the behind the scenes stuff that we got going on here. And so we have Navara here. Navara's got a great story. He's been a mentor of mine, former coach and teacher in high school. And, you know, before we get into his story, like kind of a little bit of background, we spoke a couple weeks ago about like, all right, what are we going to talk about? I knew I wanted you to be on this podcast. And so you have an awesome story, and how we shaped this episode is actually based on your Facebook page. Because, go ahead.
Yeah, pretty odd that you stalked for a little bit, but yeah, I think the Facebook and social media, you're allowed to like put a different version of yourself, probably your best version. I've been trying to do that a long time. It doesn't always match up with whom I am when you see me in reality, so I think that's a weird process for people to sort of get their head around.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, like I went back. So I initially went back to learn more about your story because we talked about it, but I knew there was more, and I knew you posted about it years ago. And, as I was going through, I was on a hunt to find those posts.
Right.
And then what I found along the way was like, I started to just fall in love with everything that you had been putting out. And I think for the most part, for people that do put out things like you put out, where it's like inspirational, it's a hopeful message for someone else, something that hit home with you. As I was doing that, it hit home with me. Like, it was weirdly emotional, and I connected so much with it. And I know you, but it was just like that next step. I feel like it was a good representation of like almost like your heart.
Right.
And so I appreciated you doing that. And it was like a weird thing. And so I was like, all right, well, let's not just tell your story, but let's talk about the wisdom and all the lessons that you learned, some of your favorites, some of the ones that stood out to me from your Facebook page. But I do want to tell your story first. And one of the posts that you put out, you kind of started to tell people more about your story back in 2020, at least publicly. And so you wrote this on April 13th, 2020, part 1. For those who are following, I will take the next few days and share my story. For most of my life, I have never shared my story of adoption with others because I never thought it important enough to share. Some things you just keep to yourself, I remember being told. I assume that you have some interest since you still are following, so thank you for that. This week happens to coincide with my spring break from school, but it also is the timeline when I was part of Operation Babylift 45 years ago. My life was altered. I have time to reflect. I have time to look over the pages of notes, letters, and personal conversations I have completed over the last year. I have time to put thoughts into words. Starting with today, give or take a day, this was the day my mother got the call from a friend wondering if her home and heart were open to the idea of adopting a child from Vietnam. My mother and my father were living in Kingston, New York with 3 children. At the time, there was a slight sense of urgency. The answer was yes or no. What would you do? Such a good intro into your story. And so, yeah, just you want to fill us in a little bit more? Such a big story, but
there's gaps in there that I think I can sort of remember. I mean, that's pretty much the timeline. I think I remember reading back that like it was like only because I have a picture of like the gotcha day. It was like April 15th. So then I realized I knew I was on a plane on the 15th to come over to New York City. I guess if we go in the backstory. So before this happened, my godfather was with communications office of the Archdiocese in New York. And he had prior knowledge that the orphanage that I was in was going to be burned down probably around that date. So he had to get 4 orphans out of this Wabin province within hours, if not minutes or so. So he had to call I assume he called 4 people. I just know that he called my parents
Hmm.
and
And this is Vietnam, like 1975.
the fall of Saigon. So yeah, that was what was happening. So
Yeah.
the paperwork I got eventually was there were 4 babies on the flight, 3 girls, 1 boy, and I might have been the youngest. It seemed that I can only speculate that they got the 4 healthiest babies to come to New York City.
Hmm.
We're gonna jump around, but a lot of the
Yeah.
research and the groups that are on are there's not a lot like there's not a lot of other babies that came through New York that I can find. A lot of them went to like South Dakota. There's a ton in Australia. There's um, Vermont. Not a lot of babies going to this like the southwest of America, or
Hmm.
and maybe a lot stayed in the California side. But in research, I couldn't find anyone with that same type of. I mean, there's 3 other children that possibly I could have connected with, and that was sort of that process of that would be the end. That would be the ultimate goal of us finding
Hmm.
those 3 other babies, and I couldn't. Every trail came into like a dead end. Like
Hmm.
I could get so far, and then no, I just it sort of it stopped. So that's where that the process sort of ended for me. Like I couldn't find those 3 other children,
Hmm.
but all the information I got other than that was is what I can share with my family and like my students sometimes if they ask, but
Hmm.
sometimes they're just asking silly questions like where are you from or what are you, and then that's sort of like as soon as I start talking, it's sort of that conversation stops. So they didn't really want to hear everything else other than
Yeah.
like where I'm from.
Just one word answer and then
That's what.
shut
Yep.
up. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So so you were born in Vietnam. How old were you when that happened?
That's a funny thing. So my brother-in-law would say that I'm like his joke is that I don't have a real birthday, so it's sort of made up. So like you could be 22. I'm like no, I'm 50. So when I came over, the lawyer and my dad were talking about a birth date, and I looked to be about 8 months old or so. So when I came over, they were like, "How about August 25th?" And my dad's like, "No, that's my brother's birthday." It was, "How about August 27th?" And they're like, "Perfect." So
Hmm.
that's the how
That's
old I was, I
You got to
guess.
choose your birthday.
Pretty much. I mean, give or take
Yeah.
8 months on either side, but yeah,
Hmm.
I was probably 8 months. I looked at to be like an 8-month-old baby at the time, but
Yeah.
I did have some like complications. I think I had like hepatitis. I had some other things that were going on that malnourished. I probably think was one of the words that I remember. But
Hmm.
so to answer your question, I was probably like 8 months old when I came
Yeah.
over.
And so you get pulled out of like the war, like the place that you were staying was getting burned down. Americans take you out and bring you back to America.
Yeah, so there's a flight that so you could. I had to research the Google of flight logs. So that was like I was always told I was on this phantom flight that never left or left Vietnam, but it wasn't supposed to. So I finally found all the flight logs of Operation Babylift, and it was like my flight number didn't exist. So then that sort of verified the fact that it was like a flight that never really existed or wasn't supposed to.
Hmm.
Left California. Here's where the story gets like people might have put their own spin on it. So lands in California, fuels on the tarmac somewhere, and then heads to New York.
Hmm.
So that I could verify only because they didn't have the flight log in at least the Operation Babylift.
Yeah. Hmm. And so all growing up, you what did you know versus kind of like, with that post, right? You dug up more of the paper trail in 2020, correct?
Yeah. Nothing other than I was adopted from Vietnam, and then I looked different than my 3 other siblings. But that's all. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't know other than like when I got old enough to start asking questions. But my parents never really shared a lot of information, mainly because I maybe didn't ask. Um, that's a time in parenting life where you didn't, unless you asked something, they weren't going to freely give up information.
Hmm.
Not that it was secretive, but it's probably something they just never really thought that was important enough to share at that time.
Yeah. Does that do anything to you in terms of, who you are, and did you have those questions, but like I just didn't feel like asking them, like I'm doing okay too. Like, do I need to ask these?
Yeah, I don't think I never really asked because it didn't really wasn't my radar. I didn't really care. I was living in like a fairly not fairly. I was living in a loving family with. We went to church. We were in a all white community. I didn't see a lot of racism. I didn't see a lot of um, avoiding us as a family. So I didn't. Like I told you, like unless I looked in the mirror, I didn't
Hmm.
realize that I was not an American, like a white American.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good thing that like you just.
Yeah, but a bad thing that because with that I didn't give any identity to my children because they
Hmm.
walk in this world where they're seen as Asian Americans, but don't have an
Hmm.
identity. So sometimes they feel that there's not a place for them, especially my youngest daughter. There's not a place. Where does she fit in? Because there's so many different groups, um, and I can't speak to that because I don't know all of it. But I think
Hmm.
when I think about that, I do. Like I don't have a. I know nothing about the Asian culture at
Hmm.
all, and I've been trying to a little bit more, but my parents never like tried to try different foods or dressed me in a certain cultural garb. It was just sort of
Hmm.
here's your Yankee T-shirt and
Yeah.
let's get on with it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Did you ever meet your maternal parents?
No, I assumed they were probably both passed away in the war.
Hmm.
We talked about a lot of the mothers during the fall of Saigon were dropping their young children off in orphanages with the hope that they were going to come back like the next day, because they just couldn't take care of them at the time. And then after the fall of Saigon, and then the babies weren't there, those mothers are still sort of looking for children they dropped off at orphanages that were either still in existence or no longer there.
Hmm. Wow, that's sad to think about. If you're obviously during. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's a weird like if you think about it now, like you drop your kid off at daycare
Yeah.
thinking I just have to go to work for 8 hours, I'll be back, and then you're not there. I think
Yeah.
it's something you probably don't think about but in a war torn country, those are things that are you're looking for the safety of your child first versus probably your own needs, and then we can get that together. They're like, whoops, that's not possible right now.
Hmm. What can you shed some light on what the fall of Saigon is? Because I don't know history at all. Like what was going on there?
might be
Not
might
to go
be
crazy.
asking the wrong person. I believe the North Vietnamese were coming in to take over. Communist North Vietnam was coming into southern Vietnam to take over the country itself. So, as they were coming closer to the capital of Ho Chi Minh or Saigon at the time, that's they were falling. That's where our U.S.
Hmm.
embassy was.
Hmm.
One thing I didn't share. Um, So one of the stories, the folklore was that my mother already knew who the baby she adopted was before she even met me. So my parents drive down to New York City to where we were. There's my dad says it's like a room, like a playpen of
Hmm.
four babies, all in a red jumper. And my mother just walked in and just picked me up. And it's like, that's my son. And then my godfather was like, oh, how do you know? And he goes, this is the one that, this is my child. And then he's like, well, yes, that's the baby we had picked out for you. And then he was like that at that moment, like you had protection over you type of thing. So
Hmm.
that was always neat. That was a story I was told. I don't know if it's true, but when I talked to my godfather, it's like, no, I was in the room. So that was that was true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And how's your relationship with uh, your adopted parents?
It was good. I mean,
Yeah.
still, I mean, my mother passed away when she was 50. My dad still lives in Florida. We talk as much as I can. I'm sure he would like it more, but I don't like talking on the phone. I could text him all day if I wanted to, but the phone's not my big thing.
Hmm.
But we're good.
Yeah.
I think we should get older. Like you he's living in another state, and all my brothers and sisters live in other states, so it's harder to be like a close knit families.
Hmm. And you have 3 kids,
I have 3 kids, yeah.
yeah, to deal with as well.
Right.
Like you got your own life, yeah. Um, so yeah, so how was just digging all of that up in COVID? You really, I guess a fairly decent question to maybe start is like, why did you want to do that in the first place?
I don't. When I turned 21, I started penning this little journal called Years from Saigon, and it was like a journal of me thanking people in my life up to that point, like my a priest, some friends, some parents' friends, my family, this is anyone I could. And then I that stopped. I don't know where that journal is right now.
Hmm.
Um, I think I might have like even let like my mother read it, and because I thought it was a cool thing, and she wasn't really happy that I did that, which it did took me back a little,
Hmm.
and then I just stopped. Like it was
Hmm.
no longer something that I thought was going to be helpful for anyone other than myself.
Hmm.
And then fast forward to when I started digging in, it was one of those things where I wanted to give some sort of closure to myself so I could share the story to my kids because after that, I wanted to give them the most complete version of the story. Because once um, I pass away, or people that I need to get information when pass away, there are no more leads for me to get like concrete
Hmm.
yes nos to questions that I had.
Hmm. Yeah, and you want to trace back your lineage for not maybe not even yourself, but for your kids. Like, where did I,
Right.
who am I? Where did I come from? And what was all that digging all of that like for you? I'm sure it was somewhat emotional, probably pretty cool. Like, what was that process like back in 2020?
You know when you like write a post on social media and you just wait to like see who likes it or
Mm.
like who comments? It was a sort of same idea. Like every time I would send out an email or a message or a text, I'd like frantically wait to see if there was a response to it. So it was like a good anxiousness of just wanting information. Um, so one of the groups I joined was like Operation Babylift Orphans, I think is the name of it. I could be wrong,
Mm.
so you can fact check that if you want. Um, I ended up connecting with someone in the same orphanage who lives in Vermont, and we had a like a couple of weeks or so that we were really like going back and forth with each other, um, getting information how her life in the orphanage was different than mine. Since I look full Vietnamese, I was allowed to like the nuns would actually take me out in the yard to play with where other babies weren't allowed because if they weren't didn't look like a full Vietnamese child, um, soldiers would shoot at them. So that was an interesting. Like I was fed in a different room than her,
Wow.
and then we stopped because I think that relationship got a little weird in the sense that she was just wanted more information than I was even willing to give, and then she was asking for information of like I can help you find your parents. I was glad that didn't ask you to do that.
Mm.
That wasn't my journey, so
Mm.
that fell off. And then I sort of like stopped talking to her. I probably
Mm.
blocked her on all my social media too.
Mm. Yeah. Do you have no desire to like find your parents? You know what I mean? Like, even if they had passed away.
People always ask that, like, do you want to go back to Vietnam or do you
Mm.
miss your mom and dad? Like, well, my mom and dad are still, well, my dad is still alive. My mom is passed away, so I don't get that sense of connection.
Mm.
So there's no need for me to look for something I wouldn't be connected to, just as much as I wouldn't want to like stand in the middle of a road in Vietnam. I would have no connection
Mm.
to it. I think I might feel different if I was actually standing there
Yeah.
and the flight wasn't 22 hours or something ridiculous. But it might be an easier sell for me. But
Mm.
um, I think the orphanage is still there, but they rebuilt it as it's a Hawabin a peace village is what it's called now. Basically, it's all the children that were affected by Agent Orange and the war. So there's disconformities and that people go to help them sort of recondition themselves into life, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, and as you're talking about just like not wanting to go back there necessarily, or not feeling like you need to, a thought popped into my head that like it seems like for your story, it's like, yeah, I'm the place that you grew up and the people that you grew up around. That is so normal for you,
Right.
and it's kind of other people somewhat being like, well, why don't you want more? Like, why don't you want to dig into this like more? Why don't you want to this? And I mean, I know you're like pretty laid back dude. Like, you're kind of just like, I don't need to necessarily.
Yeah, I think people are just always want to feel like they're helping in a
Mm.
sense. So that would be one way to help. Like, why don't you want to go back? Why don't you want to visit? Why don't you want to go search your roots? And then I just don't really have roots there. Like, it's not something that I have a connection to at all or a desire to go back.
Mm.
Maybe it's selfish for me. Maybe I'm cutting something off that I would feel grounded or more at peace. But right now, I don't have that
Yeah.
desire.
Yeah. And it reminded me of, I don't know if if there's a parallel here, but my parents got divorced before I can even remember, when I was probably like 2 or so. So before I was able to like obviously be a real human, at least in my memory. And when I tell people that, I feel like sometimes you gotta like, oh, like, you know, that's too bad. Obviously it is too bad. But with that being said, I my mom remarried, a few years later, and my stepdad is phenomenal.
Right.
And I like to say that I was raised by 3 parents. How many people get to say that? And I guess what I'm saying is sometimes when you grow up in something, it's normal for you, but it's not normal for everyone else. And so there's a little bit more of the question asking, or this is supposed to be a bad thing necessarily. And that's not that's not everyone's experience. You know what I mean? Like like my parents getting divorced was phenomenal for me. I gained a brother, I gained this awesome stepfather, I gained a parent. Like, it worked out great for the most part, as far as I can see.
Yeah, I think sometimes you don't know enough, and you don't know what you don't know. And I think sometimes
Hmm.
your vision and scope of how you see others is sort of limited to how you see yourself,
Hmm.
unless you put yourself in a lot of different places and a lot of different. You deal with people who are on the fringes enough that you can see there are a lot of different places in life where people are struggling,
Hmm.
and they don't have that same view of something that's inherently good for you could be horrible for them.
Yeah. And as you're to go back to finding the paper trail in 2020 and figuring out all this stuff, was there anything that really jumped out to you and stood out to you or hit home with you like extra hard in that process?
I think I wanted so to your earlier questions, what I wanted to get at it was like there's a chunk of my life that I don't know anything about. So from like 8 months to I don't know, a year, I guess. So those months were really interesting me to find out as much information as I could. So started with the hospital that I was with in Hell's Kitchen, New York, and I knew I was there for like 2 weeks or so. So I did research on like what who was there, what people were working there, and I randomly reached out to this um, Catholic Charities out of New York and put me in place with the one of the women who was not necessarily a nurse or a doctor there, but just worked the front desk, and she was actually getting like an award at Catholic Charities that year of like working there for like 50, 60 years.
Hmm.
She goes, "You have your number. She's a little hard of hearing. I'm sure she wouldn't mind talking to you." I'm like, I don't, probably not. Like if someone calls me a random phone number, I'm not answering it at all. So I called, and she picked up. I like the second ring, and I told her my story, and then we talked for like 15, 20 minutes. Like, and she was, yes, I was a receptionist, and I would, on our breaks, we'd go up and hold the babies when we could, and sometimes we would go in on our days off just to see you guys, um, hold you, and to know that you were loved while you were here. And I thought that was like a really neat thing to connect with, but also to understand that there are people in this world that are doing things just to be nice people.
Hmm.
No one's asked them to. No one's paying them more. They're probably not looking for like an award or a pat on the back. And there's probably more people like that than not. You just have to look in the right places
Hmm.
or be willing to accept that person in that place and in that space.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I feel like everyone has that nature in them to, yeah, like serve others and just do the right thing, you know. But yeah, I think for some reasons, insecurities, selfishness, I'm sure, like you just don't. I mean, I do that plenty, you know. And nobody's perfect, but yeah, I mean, I think that is a cool story, and so that was like a 4 month stretch. You're saying when you were back in New York and you hadn't gone home with.
Yeah, until I like moved up to Kingston, it was like it might have been shorter. It might have been like 2 or 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Although my dad tells the story like every weekend they would drive down into the city to see me. So he said, I mean, I'm gonna probably lie, in fact, and but like it might have been like 4 weeks,
Hmm.
4 weekends in April, May, or something.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, appreciate you just sharing your story. One, I mean, that's a huge part of like, I mean, just quarter life clarity in general. I feel like everyone's got a story, and you definitely have like an interesting one for sure. And so appreciate you sharing it. And yeah, like to go back to, where this whole thing came from in a sense of me looking at your Facebook page. Now I do want to talk about the kind of some of your best lessons learned kind of, just from 50 years of your life, but also in this whole journey and touching on some of your story as well. And before we get into all that, I mean, we got a bunch of good quotes and, you know, stories from your journey and memories that we'll dive into. But something that I'm reminded of before we just throw a bunch of cool wisdom at you as the listener. One, a quote that I love is, "We need to be reminded more than we need to be taught." Some of these you've probably heard before, but I think it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to forget the ones that, really matter. And I feel like we come across so many quotes throughout our day and good things that we just see so much of it sometimes, and it's just like in one ear and that's great, and then out the other ear and we don't act on it at all. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't try to remember each one of these. I mean, try and like pick one, and I would say to act on it. Like one of the most simplest and easiest, I don't even know if you'd call it a quote. It's more of just like a saying. But for me in 2020, 2022 was take action. Literally just 2 words. Like that, 2022 was the year of taking action for me. And that changed my life. And it's like, I feel like that's the difference between these things actually affecting you versus, okay, yeah, just in one ear and out the other. And when we were trying to figure out this episode, like what we were going to talk about, we were texting back and forth, and you'd said to me, the crazy thing, Brian, is that you hear inspirational quotes throughout your day. You just don't know that they're there. I guess as you get older, you start to hear them a little more louder than the others. Luke Bryan has a song out now, Sun to Me. And you quoted it, "Find someone who grows flowers in the darkest parts of you." And I didn't correct you in the text, but that's Zach Bryan. I'm sure you
Oh,
know it. But anyways, like I love that song, and that quote is one that stands out to me. And so, I feel like I want to start there, and that's kind of a two-parter of, yeah, the fact that we see all these things throughout our day that maybe, yeah, they're cool, but we don't do anything about them. And then, yeah, find someone who grows flowers in the darkest parts of you.
Is there a Zach Bryan?
You don't.
I don't know the difference.
Yeah. So Luke Bryan's
There's
been
Zach.
around longer.
There's Zach Brown.
Zach Brown, but there is a Zach Bryan.
Okay.
Zach Bryan has taken over the country scene probably since, I don't know, past 5 or so years. Like 2020, 2021 is kind of when he came on the scene. But yeah, that's his song. So don't go around telling people
I already
that's
did.
Luke Bryan.
I think I already told my wife to listen to the song. She goes, "Oh, I love him," but I think she meant to say, um, the right
Yeah,
Brian, and not the
yeah.
one that I had.
She knew what you meant. That's a good wife.
That's all that matters. She'll make fun of me later about it. Um, I forgot to tell you, like, this is the worst part of Facebook and social media for me, like, talking about what I post.
Great.
No, it's just because, like, I'd rather people just, like it or comment it and then be done with it. Because you talked to me more about being vulnerable. So then I have people like, hey, I saw what you posted on Facebook. It was really interesting. And then they want that conversation, where at that point didn't want that conversation. It was just me sharing information. So I don't, that's not I'm saying I don't want to do this, but it's like one of those harder things for me to do, to when you put yourself out there. And I'm okay with people writing comments, because that's, like them, not like them, delete them, block them. But when you have to have that real conversation of, why did you post it? This is what it meant to me. You edited, you had the wrong name, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. That's funny. So yeah. Um,
Well, and on that too, I mean, I feel that 100%. Like, especially, like you've seen on my Instagram, like I'm trying to be more vulnerable and open with just everything these days. And yeah, I mean, I feel like some people see that and it's like, dude, are you okay? Like, you get some of that, and yeah, like I'm all right, but like I'm just kind of saying also, it's kind of the other end of social media. Maybe I'm just trying to like be different in that sense of, yeah, social media, most people use it. 99% of people use it to boast about, all the good stuff that's going on. And that's great. But I think especially for the quarter lifer and quarter life clarity, it's like, well, that's not reality. That's not real life. And so I think sometimes I'm just trying to help that person that feels like they're the only one that feels this stuff. And I guess what I'm saying is, hey, you're not the only one. Most people feel this. It's just hard to say it. And I don't mind at this point being the poster child of it, in a sense. You know what I mean?
the beauty and the harm of social media is that you can be whoever you want on social media. You can create a third version of yourself, or a fourth version, or times whatever you want to do. But the true emotions and the feelings and the connections you'll make is just being what your gut tells you, or what you've been taught for so long, the lessons, and try to continue that line of clarity, I guess.
Yeah. And talk to me about, why do you like find some. Now I'm going to be thinking about every time I pull up one of these, like, oh, he's going to hate explaining this. But talk to me a little bit about find someone who grows flowers in the darkest parts of you.
I think it's one of those. When I heard it, I replayed it, and I'll get a song and I won't know the words, and I'll sing it loud as I can, and then I'll go back and I'll get clarity, and I'll like listen to the song, like literally try not to sing with it, try not to do anything with it, and there's tons of people that like just want to be loved, I guess, or wanted to be appreciated for the good stuff that they're doing, or like all that, the times that they're not struggling. But you find someone who's gonna to be happy with you when you're struggling, and to reach out and to make sure you're okay. Those are the people that you want to keep around, that know that there's, we've talked about like the light and the pendulum of emotions, and your swing from the dark to the light, and you want to spend as much time in the light as possible, but there's still stuff in you that is good, that lies in the darkness, that
Hmm.
you don't try to cultivate and you don't try to navigate through it, but
Hmm.
you find someone who knows that, and stays with you and speaks highly of you when you're in the room and you're not. I mean, that's a person you want around, whether it's a spouse, a girlfriend, a friend, a coach, a mentor, a teacher. Those are the people you want in your corner
Hmm.
rooting for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's beautiful, and I think, um, sometimes it's hard to believe in ourselves. Is kind of what I feel like you're dancing around. Of, yeah, we can't see everything ourselves. You have a very, very different perspective than I do about me. You know what I mean? And we all kind of go about that. And yeah, I mean, I think anyone could think of those one, two, maybe three people that do grow flowers in the darkest parts of them, like that are there in the weeds, that are there in the struggle, that see things about themselves that they don't see themselves. And I feel like, again, I love this song and I love this quote. And I've felt recently like building a business, being an entrepreneur is hard. Life is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. And lately, touching on the whole social media thing and the counting likes and stuff, it's so easy to do that when you're posting things every day. And I've completely like gone away from that, but it's impossible to completely disconnect yourself from that. Not to mention, even more so, pouring your all into something and not seeing the result that you always want in terms of, right, you post something and you think it's going to be received well, you think it's going to resonate with people, and the results don't show that. And I think that's some of what I've felt with trying to build this and all this stuff. And you don't always get that. And it's hard. You start to question, is this even a good idea? Am I on the right track? All this stuff. But with that being said, every few days someone will reach out, someone will say something, that just hits home, and it's so like quick 2 seconds, like, hey man, just keep doing it. Like keep I talked to Proto on Instagram yesterday, I think, and we had a quick 2 second conversation of just like, hey man, this is helping me and I appreciate it. And, I know I'm not the only one. And it was quick, but that means so much. And that meant so much to me. And I think what I'm getting at is, yes, showing our appreciation to others and verbalizing it is so important because everybody's insecure. Everybody has their struggles. Everybody doesn't know if they should be vulnerable and put themselves out there and all that. And I think when you do, and then that person, somebody's like, yeah, like I get it, me too. That comfort that I think comes with that is just, it's such a nice feeling and like an exhale.
Yeah, I more recently I've heard people say thank instead of saying thank you, say I appreciate you,
Hmm.
and just that short one word, two word difference. I just like saying I like hearing someone say I appreciate you.
Hmm.
Like when I was at the gym this morning and I held the door for someone and I don't usually it's nothing or thank you and he goes I appreciate you, man. Oh, wow, that's neat.
Hmm.
I don't know if more people are doing it or I just think that that word is just more. It's not one of those graveyard words we talk about like
Hmm.
I like this or thank you versus like I really appreciate what you're doing or that
Hmm.
it just means more. I think
Yeah.
it settles more in me. It makes me feel better about what I've done versus just a blanket
Hmm.
say please and say thank you. There are other ways to convey appreciation, I guess, or
Yeah.
thank you.
No, I think it's the genuine authenticity factor too of, I mean, I think about even like it's so hard to not do it, but I hate oh, it's good to see you after you see someone. I hate that. And I think almost what's even better is just like a nice hug. You don't even have to say words,
Right.
but that just means more. Sometimes less words is more better. All right, let's move on to number 2 from Navara's Facebook. Popcorn is prepared in the same pot, in the same heat, in the same oil, and yet the kernels do not pop at the same time. Don't compare your child to others. Their turn to pop is coming.
Wow, that was a good one.
That was deep. I feel like that was 21, 22.
It had to be like when I'm coaching and you're listening to a parent on the sideline saying stuff that's not really relevant or not helpful, and then them getting that same conversation on the way to their car and then to the drive home, and you're comparing your kid who's maybe just struggling that day, not forever. But I think when I think as parents or coaches or teachers, and when you don't clarify your statement of saying right now this is what's happening or this is what I see right now, um, and not be too wordy with it, and just let them find their way to succeed, because then the next day they do great and all you say is good job versus this is why you did a good job, or I've seen you working so I know that paid off. I think those are just the way you word splice some things together, some as someone in authority, whether it's a coach or a parent or a teacher, helps in the long run, not necessarily like that moment or that day. I mean,
Mm,
I think that was the same week I might have posted like even a broken crayon still draws. Those are the
mm,
type of things that you see plastered on like teachers' walls, and
mm.
it makes sense and they're corny at times, but when we really think about it, like yeah, it does. It does make a difference if you sit down and talk about it after instead of just like you said before about seeing something, let it come in, and then letting it go out.
Mm,
Um, and that's why some coaches are better because they have these things in their brain that they can just rattle off,
mm.
whether to a player who's struggling or whether to a parent who's asking like, "Hey, my son's going to be a D1 athlete, and I need to know what I can do to help." I'm like, oh, just back off a little.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen one way or the other. So
Mm. Yeah. And I feel like I've seen that, not a post that I grabbed here, but I feel like it speaks to, I forget what you always say, but it's like a picture of, I think, your son, and like, you'll dance and I'll beat the drum. Like that, like it feels like the same thing of like, I'm going to let you be you and I'm going to cheer you on no matter what.
yeah, I tend to reuse and circle back to a lot of the same statements and just with different pictures on.
Yeah.
Because I
Some of
don't.
them were the same, some of them were different. Yeah.
Well, the problem is because as you get older, my kids don't want to take pictures, so it's like I've got to use the one when you were 4 years old and you're doing something fun and cute, versus now when you can barely get into a camera. So yeah, you don't. I never wanted to be that parent that was like, "You're gonna do this because I did that," and frankly, because I wasn't great at anything. I mean, I was good at some things, but to live vicariously through your children for whatever it um, is not helpful in the long run. Um, and any stretch of the word. I mean,
Hmm.
when you've seen it, we've all see it. We know what we're talking about, and it's even harder to distance yourself from parents who may be your same age who are doing that to their children, and then
Hmm.
just sit by idly and be like, "Oh, jeez, there he goes again," and without saying it. So,
Hmm. Well, I mean, so I grabbed that one too. I love that you talked about, yeah, it's specific to parenting, right, and coaching and teaching. But I mean, comparison is a big problem that I think quarter lifers deal with. And so, especially because with quarter or with social media, it's so easy to just compare yourself to other people. And I guess my interpretation of this, it's the same thing. Yeah, popcorn is prepared in the same pot, in the same heat, in the same oil, and yet the kernels do not pop at the same time. It's the same thing for the quarter lifer. It's the same thing for somebody can, one, just look like they have it all figured out on social media of what you see, and you're comparing yourself to them of, man, I'm not there yet. They're there. They're where I want to be. And so now I'm a failure because I'm not there. We're the same age, or they're younger than me. And I think it's just it's it's the age we're in, and social media is always going to be a thing. But I think you can still use social media for just what it is, of someone just celebrating a personal moment, but not make yourself feel like shit after by comparing yourself to them. And because you're going to pop at some time, you just might be late. Like, I've been single for years. That's okay. I know my time's coming. You know what I mean? It's the job, it's the career satisfaction, it's all this stuff. We don't see what's going on with other people behind the scenes, but yet we compare ourselves to them based on what we see. We see all of ourselves, but we see 0.5% of them, and we compare those two, and it's just not a fair battle.
Yeah, I've always like the quote I've always tried to I've used from time to time is like I'm thankful for the things I have and the things that I don't have.
Hmm.
And when you think about it, that it just it that resonates me on so many levels because the things I don't have, and when you think about the things that other people like, I don't have an illness or money
Hmm.
issues or hunger issues or um, strapped for relationship issues. So instead of like it's I'm happy I don't have those, but we don't talk about like the things that other people have that we just want the good things part of them versus I don't know, you can't just pick and choose, I guess. I guess we can as
Hmm.
people. You get to choose the good qualities in a person and sort of ignore the bad ones, but I think you're doing a disservice to yourself and to that person by not either helping them or stepping away and taking that energy away from you. So,
Hmm. All right, number 3. And we could talk about that forever. Comparison, but we don't have to go crazy here. So number 3 post that I found, and this is a personal one. Um, and this is what you wrote with it, and I'll show the picture for those watching video. But the caption was, scrolling through pictures and found this one. The fact that I have had to remember her longer than I knew her creeps up on me sometimes and delivers me life's greatest lesson. When the opportunity presents itself, dance like no one's watching. And there's the picture. I'm sure that pulls up some emotion for you, but what is that, the picture, the saying, what does that mean to you?
was I wearing all white for this?
Yeah,
Good,
you are.
good God.
Oh man, this is probably what, 90s maybe?
I was
You had hair.
I had hair. It was one of the last times I probably had hair. I started
Looks
shaving in
good.
college. It was
Mm.
her 50th birthday party. Um, I think it was a surprise party. Um, it's almost like one of the last pictures I have with her. So those are ones I keep circling back on social
Mm.
medias because I only have like with me as an almost an adult. I wasn't really, but those are the pictures of that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, there's so much like. So she passed away when I was 21, and she was just 50 when she passed away from cancer. Um, she got the first bone marrow transplant in New York. I'm gonna say like early 90s or so. And as hard as that was to go through, it was such an amazing process of like I remember like her being so strong with like the first time she made it through after this and it was good for months like maybe 6 months or so and then I came back from college and she was like I'm not well. I'm like I know it's fine we're gonna get through it and she goes no I'm not well and then it was like a total shift of like her prepping everyone around her for life without her. So it's like I'm gonna need to teach you how to help me walk or help me get into a chair. Bathing wasn't an issue because I wasn't gonna do that. That was above my pay grade. Um, and then she like slowly like closed doors with everyone, like in like the most peaceful way, which I like. I could never do that. I mean, I can't
Mm.
even talk about it, let alone doing it. But
Mm.
it was neat. So, but she still like resonates in my life with all the things that she had done. Um, like those three orbs that you saw, like when you're putting up your camera. I really,
Yeah.
green orbs are those things that I think are like entities or ghosts that sing around, or like the cardinal that you see. I see her like every day, but she missed out like on like weddings and births and graduations from college, and actually no, she was there for that one. Second
Mm.
college and the college after that. So um, she loved life, and I think we sometimes forget that that's, I guess, why we're here. I mean, to enjoy life as much as you can, because we're all gonna die at some point. Um, but how well did you live your life? How many friends? How many interactions? How many relationships? How many smiles did you put on? Um, she's sort of that mantra that I keep rolling back to in a lot of these posts.
Mm.
I can't believe I was wearing all white. I must have had a jacket on. I had to have had a jacket on.
We had to dance. You had to take it off.
That's such a bad picture.
Yeah. No, I mean, um, the relationships. I've heard this said by so many people. I think just as everyone has. The relationships. You're not gonna wish you spent more time working when you're 90, right? It's that cliche, and I have some qualms with that because I think we have a negative connotation of work and we're supposed to work. I don't want to go there. But yeah, I mean the relationships, I love that you said the smiles that you put on other people's faces. I mean, I know and I've seen and I've been on the receiving end of who you are as a coach, as a teacher, as a person. And I think you do it, you have an interesting way of doing it, which makes it even better of just like your calm, like sarcastic nature. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that really matter. And I think, um, it's that legacy. Yeah, your mom has passed, but yeah, you see her every day. She's still in you, she's still with you, and I think that is a testament to who she is, who she was, and you kind of just keeping that memory alive just by being you.
Yeah, she was the life of a party, and I'm not. So like I try like to grab some things, but I she would dance whenever she wanted to. Um, she played like the spoons if she were out like at a bar, like a weird thing. She'd just grab spoons and start playing them. Like what
Like
is?
banging them on the bar.
No, like on her leg. There's like
Oh.
people that like start like playing spoons. Like a
Yeah.
she was like a hillbilly at some point, but I don't know. It's she's the best quality I never had was her, and
Hmm.
my kids have some of it, and I think I had it when I was younger because I was like, oh, this is fun, and then at some point, like I went introspective and like I didn't want any. I'm still closed guarded with like my emotions and my feelings and like um, my happiness and my smile.
Hmm.
I've always said like smiling is for people who are weak. I don't know why. I don't know where I heard that at some point, but it was like
Yeah.
smiling is a sign of weakness. So,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, and I mean, I think to the quote side of it, um, dance like when the opportunity presents itself, dance like no one's watching, and that lately, for me personally, like that's a quote that probably everyone's heard, but I think when you really think about it, yeah, like everyone is just that 8-year old. Everyone's just a big kid
yeah,
at the end of the day, and I feel like I know I have lost some of that, especially being so work career focused. And it's just a simple reminder to one, not take life so seriously. I think I struggle with that. And yeah, just everything's gonna be okay. Like relax. And yeah, like don't be afraid to be that kid again. I think is just such a good message.
I think we're just like in general, people are afraid to be judged,
Hmm.
and the worst feeling as for a player or a student is to really, really be happy with what they're doing and have someone come and just crush that. And I hear that more often than not from former students or players, like, oh, this teacher or this coach totally killed my whatever, my love of something, my drive for something, and then it's true. Like it's very hard to be open with people, and to just be like you said, to be silly or
Mm.
to be a kid again, or to enjoy something as you did a kid, because at some point, if it becomes your job, then everyone's going to judge you for it. If you're a baseball player or you're uh, a lawyer, someone's going to judge what you've done wrong. But that's a hard part to live, is your daily life of just like, does it matter? Like,
Yeah.
maybe it does for a little bit, but it's going to go away, and no one's going to. We're not middle school. We're not going to keep talking about this for the next 20 years. I mean, I
Mm.
probably would, but but that's the idea of just being okay with being yourself and being. And once you can get there, life's a little bit easier
Mm.
when you're okay with just being goofy. Like, I went to the gym the other day with two different shoes on, and I had no idea. I was trying to take like an inspirational post, and I looked down. I'm like, holy crap! I got two different shoes on. So
That's
that
unbelievable.
out went the post.
Oh, you didn't still do it?
I think I might have years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would have done it years ago. But now I'm like, I got two different canes on. This is gonna work out for anybody.
It's amazing that you didn't feel the difference on your way to the gym.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a good point. It is just that judgment. Like I don't know what the quote is, but something along the lines of, if you could fail in a vacuum, if you failed at something and no one saw it, no one knew about it, you'd be fine, right? But it's the other people that mess with that, of what, not even maybe them actually judging, but the thought of them maybe judging you is what stops. Maybe that's why you stopped in that moment the other
yeah.
day, just to call you out. But yeah, I mean, I think I at least, the best relationships and the best connections, maybe is a better word, that I have with people are the ones that are not judgmental. And I think that if there's a quality in a person, in a good friend, in a good spouse, in a good relationship, I think it's that you're going to fall on your face, you're going to be weird, but it's okay. And yeah, I can hold you accountable and call you out, but there's still no judgment there. And I feel like that's just an important lesson on this. You don't have to add anything if you don't want to. Next one. If you stopped yourself every single time you were about to say, I have to, and changed it to, I get to, it might change your entire experience. That's definitely someone everyone's heard, but so important. Talk to me about that.
I use. Let me. Yeah, I've seen it before, and that's everything from going to see your grandparents on a Sunday versus, oh, I have to go to grandma's house today, versus, oh, I get to see her, because obviously we don't know how many more Sundays we're gonna have with grandma or grandpa. Um, I really use it this year with coaching baseball at St. Joe's, and we started the season early with me giving head coach giving me time at the beginning of practice to talk about faith, or about the mental aspect of the game. That was the first one I used, was how awesome it for you guys to think that you have the opportunity to come here and to play baseball, because not everyone does. Some people don't make it. Maybe people who are good enough to
Mm.
be here have work commitments or other things. So getting the opportunity versus having to be here, and that changes the mindset of, we get to come here and practice and get the opportunity to get reps in and to be better and become better as a team, versus making it seem like it's a chore, or make it, you have to do something. So
Mm.
that helped tremendously. Just the mindset of the team this year, which sort of helped hopefully
Mm.
them for years to come. But it's always going to be that back of your mind of, what a great opportunity to put your cleats on with your brothers or people that you love playing this game, because pretty soon, most people, high school sports, that's where it ends, and you lace up your shoes for the last time, unless it's like a Sunday league or an adult league.
Yeah.
But those aren't the same of
Yeah.
going to school all day with someone and doing silly stuff all day, and then spending another 2 hours just enjoying what you're doing. Like we said, being a kid again.
Mm. Yeah. I think that, I mean, I've resonated with that so much because having played, baseball, high school, college, having the opportunity to coach it was an awesome experience. also knowing that I was going to leave coaching when I did. I am going to go back to it at some point, but I knew last year I was stepping away, and it was a challenging season as a team, but for myself as someone who was coaching and trying to do the best I could there on the field, but also trying to run this whole program behind the scenes, meeting with players, running group meetings, team meetings. It was a lot. And you can catch yourself being like, I just want to get to the summer, man. Like, I'm so freaking busy right now. And is this even working? Like, it was, I remember midway through the season, like, we were going through a rough stretch, and it was like, is all this work for nothing? And we put it together in the postseason and went on a great run. And it was maybe the most fun I've ever had in a week. But I think it hits on enjoying the season that you're in no matter what. And I like to say that because I think you're going to miss something about it. Maybe not if it is a hard season, if it is a struggle. You might not miss the pain itself of that specific thing, but something about your life in that season that you're in, you're going to miss at some point, right? Like, again, I mentioned being single. Like, there's so much that I'm going to miss about just that. And, I'm living at home with my parents. That's definitely a tough one for me of like, I love them, but living on my own for a few years and then coming back here, it's like, well, that kind of blows. Like, but I get to see my parents every day. Like, how many people get to say that? And so I think it just does touch on enjoying where you're at no matter what, because I know that future me is going to miss something about where I'm at right now. And it's a hard one, but I think it's such an important one to bring yourself back to.
Yeah, and I think having these conversations, and for players, it's players and coaches or teachers and students, but without having the conversation behind like these quotes, they're sort of just dead ends, really. So, but as a coach or a teacher, you get to say these things and then really dive into what it means to. Like you get to come to school. Like there
Mm.
are friends, and to be honest, I tell kids like not everyone's is getting off that bus. I mean, you're still making that conscious effort to get off the bus and to come into the doors of the school.
Mm.
You might not like it,
Mm.
but you're lucky enough that somewhere down the road someone said this is important for you to do.
Mm.
Um, you might not be doing your best effort or you're not being your best self, but somewhere this is what you get to do. This is an opportunity that you have. Obviously, there's tons of opportunities that we have that we spoil away.
Mm.
But like you're right, we're gonna miss everything you're doing. You're going to miss eventually, so you're better off just enjoying that time, being in the moment versus worrying about what I did yesterday or oh, 2 days I have to do this type of thing.
Mm. Yeah, you're always chasing that next thing, and you're never actually enjoying the moment.
Right.
And yeah. And so you kind of jumped ahead a little bit, and that's okay. Maybe there's a little bit of a difference here, but the next one was going to be actually about, and maybe you can shed a little bit more light on that, the season that you guys had. But the post was, and I'll pull up the picture. Super happy for these kids who rode the roller coaster of high school sports with all of its ups and downs to start the season 4-6 and finish 18-9 is a testament to their resilience. Congratulations, cadets. Luke 14:11. And there's the picture. And you're not smiling, as we talked about. But it wasn't a shock, but anyways.
Oh, that is me smiling. One. And those things, like these pictures are the worst for me. Only because it's not about me. Like people, oh, you're in the picture. I'm like, I don't need to be in the picture. I might have been like the last one to get there. They're like, get over here. I'm like, really? It's not that important. I've already done this. Yeah, so this is the second time we won a state title while I was being at St. Joe's. I think the last one is 2019. I don't remember baseball games as good as other people do. Like I remember the teaching moments, but I don't remember like inning by inning or the score. Someone asked me who actually played the other day, and I was like, I don't remember. I think I gave them the wrong answer. I probably should remember. It was just a special group of kids that, from that first practice, when you knew they had something that was special if they worked together, put their egos aside, um, took a team approach to a game, um, loved each other. And that's a weird thing to say. From not a weird thing, but when you start hearing coaches or players saying "I love you" before they leave or something, it's
Mm.
whether it's joking or not, it's just a better environment to be in than all the other things that you would say to your teammate as you left.
Yeah.
Insert anything that's inappropriate, I'm sure.
It's "I
Yeah,
love you" just said another way.
yeah, just different. These kids are different these days. Um, but yeah, just a special group, and I'm happy for all of them. They all did their part, and I think that's a tough part to accept as a high school athlete, whatever your role is. Like today, you might not have your best stuff, so you better be a good teammate or remember the count. So when that person comes in, you can talk about sequencing. Um, you might just be the base runner,
Mm.
so you better been watching the pickoff move or have you been counting, and all these things that you don't talk about, but you get to talk about it this year with these kids because they were just coachable and they wanted to sort of learn for the most part. Um, but yeah, some just good kids that St. Joe's does a weird thing. So at the end of every practice, they all say goodbye to the coaches and they shake our hands. So
Mm.
it's like 22 guys walking in a line saying goodbye. And after a while, I'm like, this is better off saying see you later. But
Yeah.
it is something that's been a tradition and they've kept up with it. Like it's the end to the practice and they're saying goodbye and they're saying thank you. And um, that's a neat cultural thing that
Mm.
happens there. Um, I know Luke 14:11 is supposed to be something that I'm supposed to remember, but I'm better off if I had it in front of me
Yeah. Yeah.
versus um, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it sort of was something that um, head coach sort of that was how he put that on all their warm up shirts, and so it stuck through.
For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. So yeah, what did that mean for you guys? You said the head coach put it on their shirts.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever talked about what it meant. I mean, I think maybe they did. Might have been there. I'm a volunteer, so I come and go as I please.
Mm.
But um, the baseball's a humbling game, and it'll humble you real quick if you take yourself too seriously. And I think that's with each at bat. That's every play in the field. With a pitcher who can't locate. You always got to think it's that next pitch. It's that next at bat. It's that next chance to compete or
Mm.
to
To kind of flip the script or
yeah.
write a new story. There's always something that's next.
There's that short memory that we talk about that
Mm.
baseball players live with probably a little bit more than other people.
Mm.
Um, so it was always with them. That's sort of the mantra that ran practices or games or after game speeches. So um, it worked.
Yeah.
And I'm sure next year there'll be a new psalm or something that we could look forward to.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think, one team sports are. I remember I almost played golf in high school, if you can believe that. And one of the reasons my dad really did not want me to do that. I'm really glad I didn't at this point, but um, one of the reasons he didn't want me to do that was because you only get so many opportunities to be a part of a team, especially via a sport. You're on teams, in your work and your life, but it's not the same. And I feel like, yeah, it's always interesting when those teams do come together, when it is, I don't know, I feel like everyone that's played a sport can think back right now to that one or two seasons where that group just clicks. And I was lucky to be a part of those. I feel like a lot, especially like my senior year in college, and same with high school too. It's weird, but yeah, I think there's certain traits that teams and individuals within that team need to have, and this verse speaks to the humility aspect, and that's, I think, a huge one. And the next one, number 6, this is one that I had thought of, that I thought it'd be good to talk about is leave it better than when you found it. It was sparked by the whole baseball sports conversation, but talk to me a little bit about that one.
Leave it better than when you found it.
Is that I know that's one that I threw in there. Is that
So that's not one of mine.
no, it's not.
What?
I can
What is?
let me
No,
talk about it. Let me
I can go.
all right.
So there's a couple of times living in Stratford that like I just do things, and I also then post about them on social media. But in the inherent good in it, I'm trying to give. So, um, the gas station by on Main Street by like the Bank of America
Mm-hmm.
used to have like two planters out, and what that meant to Stratford was there were two garbage planters. So they would just chuck garbage through all. It was right around Memorial Day, but it was weird. There was a flag in it, but it was filled with like garbage. So I took time and I emptied the garbage and I just left the flag. And I think there might have been a flower. I don't know. And I took a picture and I left, and then posted about it, of course. But it's just I don't know. Not because it's the American flag. It's because someone put a planter out there because it's supposed to be nice, and then we as society is like it's this is more convenient than the garbage can that is 2 inches away that could have been filled just as easily.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was I was running I think a couple of years ago. When I say running, I was walking, and I found a phone in the middle of the road. It was like a newer phone, and I'm like, oh, what do I do with it? So like I picked it up, and it was on or nothing. And so I was like, I just set it off to the side, and then I finished my walk, and then I'm like, what should I like leave it there? Should I not leave it there?
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and got the phone, and I just took a picture of the phone and said like, I just found this road on this road. I'm taking it to the police station, and just let it be at that. Um, and not sure. I mean, eventually the person was running, and it got to him that the phone was at the police station, but
Mm-hmm.
that I just did that. I wasn't expecting like a thank you,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that's what I was supposed to do. Like when I see things, it's like I don't think that new phone is supposed to be in the middle of the
Yeah.
road. So, and then I think the third time I was driving to a Bunnell football game after I'd gone. I was already teaching at Stratford High, and I came across a car that was, so you know Bunnell, it was perpendicular in front of the fire station,
Mm-hmm.
and a lady was like slumped over in the car. So I go up, I pull off to the side, and I'm like, I have to see what's happening. So this lady's clearly shouldn't be driving. I was like, ma'am, are you okay? She's fine. And then before I could like reach in to like grab the keys, she like woke up and pulled out and drove down towards 7-Eleven, I guess. So stop at the fire station, tell them my story. Um, Police finally show up, and then they started questioning me, and I didn't like their questions. And then it was like, why? This is maybe why people don't do nice things sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Not because the police. It's because like you do something that you think is inherently good, and then immediately met with that wasn't your place, or you shouldn't have done that. Um, I don't. Maybe I'm getting off the track there, but
No, 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 no. I think that's
I think that's why sometimes people don't do things that they know they're going to leave it in a better place because they're going to think someone else is going to do it,
Hmm.
or in this society, someone's going to take offense to it, and there's going to be a problem with it.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And yeah, I think with this, leave it better than when you found it. That's one that my college coach, really instilled on us and thinking about the dugout, especially the away dugout, like make make it spotless. And it's not hard. It's just like literally just pick up all the trash and make it nice. And I feel like it's one that extends to every aspect of your life because yeah, I mean I think about like at the gym how many used wipes that just end up on the floor and or paper towels in the bathroom at a restaurant that are on the ground and just these things that we see throughout our day that I know when I don't do it, it's like, yeah, that's not my place. That's someone else's job. Someone else will do it. There's a cleaning person for that. And I feel like that in itself is that thought is exactly the issue where it's not my responsibility. And when you shift to, I mean, it is my responsibility, like leave it better than when I found it. Um, I don't know what makes me do that because yeah, it's so easy for one, especially like the paper towels and the wipes that are on the floor. Just grab a clean one and grab it and throw it in the trash and like get the other ones. And I also think that like the janitor or the cleaning person that's gonna do that, like I don't know, I'm right here, I can do it. You know, everyone's. It reminds me that we're all human, and just because someone has a title of like this is what they do, doesn't mean that I'm limited to not help out too. I don't know if that even makes sense, but
No, I mean collectively we're all citizens of Stratford, so our job would be to make sure w- we like living in this town and we like looking at this town and then
mm,
walking. So that may make us do things that aren't our responsibility,
mm,
which is pick up garbage or so that's an easy one, right?
yeah,
So taking your cart back at the grocery store.
mm,
And then I lose my mind when like I see a person just leave it in like the handicap spot.
mm,
Because one, that's just inconsiderate, and
mm,
two, I'm just lazy. The carts aren't that far.
mm,
And those are the easy ones. But like you see a dog roaming in this town, do you stop? Do you not
mm,
stop? I assume most people would say, yeah, I'm gonna stop. But I'm sure there's plenty of our friends who are like, nope, I've got to go somewhere.
mm,
I stopped the other day, and then East Main Street, I stopped. There was two dogs. They seemed to be walking around, and tried to look around, and people were still driving by fast.
mm,
And I was parked probably that I probably shouldn't park right. Like I was pretty much in the street.
mm,
But those are the things that you do, not because someone's watching, because it's just. And when you're dealing with dogs and pets, I think it's an easier sell than saying, if you saw a garbage can in the middle of the street and it's your neighbors, would you put it back to their driveway or would you just leave it there? And it doesn't make you a maybe it does make you a bad person one way or the other, but no one's judging you that you didn't do that on
mm,
certain things. So I think that's a tough sell for people, regardless of age. Of is there a right way to do? What does it mean to leave leave it better than you found it? Like
mm,
in high school, I struggled with this like early on when like I'd see lunch tables and kids would just leave all their stuff and then not throw it away and then not have someone in charge make them throw it away and then having a conversation later with kids like realizing that they don't ever sit at a dinner table with their family so their meals are moving, they're like
mm,
walking from one place to another, and it doesn't make it right, but that's a mind frame and a set that I would have never realized that
mm,
um, maybe that's I'm not giving them an excuse. Well, maybe I am giving excuses. Maybe that's
mm,
why they're not used to sitting somewhere and throwing it away. They just leave it where it is because when you go to McDonald's and you eat, you sometimes just leave it
mm,
on the table because you're going somewhere. Right?
mm.
But
And I think that even speaks to leaving people better than when you found them. Of, hey, you know, again, kind of no judgment, but that's not that's not maybe the right thing to do for lack of a better word. Like that's just, hey, let me pull you aside and just say, hey, that's in this place. That's not what we do. And I feel like that's another thing where, yeah, you could just be like, all right, well, this kid just doesn't get it, or this person just doesn't get it. Like it's not my responsibility to try and correct them. I think there's just we all have so many opportunities throughout the course of our day to leave something, a person, a place, a thing better than when we found it. And I think it's those excuses that get in the way, those insecurities. How's it going to look to other people? The, yeah, the police or firemen saying, like, you know, kind of just leading you the wrong way in this whole thing. I think there's so many excuses, but Ted Lasso quote, like, doing the right thing is never the wrong thing. And I think we all inherently know what the right thing to do is, but it's those fears and insecurities that get in the way of doing it. And just to close the loop on this, like, doing things like that, listening to that voice in your head of this is the right thing to do, that was a pivotal thing that like changed who I am today back in like 2020. It was just always listen to that good voice in your head, and literally, like we talked about, picking things up off the ground when you saw them, doing the dishes. Like, it was a lot of physical things. You start small, but then those eventually, your identity, who you are, just over time changes. And those little things, that picking up the trash on the side of the road and just throwing it away, because you're not going to die if you do that. Like, doing those things stack up over time, and eventually the little things do, I believe, add up to the big things, and then you have that integrity, and who you are is different. Number 7, and there's 2 left, maybe 3. I have come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It is my daily mood that makes the weather. I possess tremendous power to make life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal in all situations. It is my response that nope, in all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de-escalated, and a person is humanized or dehumanized. If we treat people as they are, we make them worse. If we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming. There's a lot of words there, I know.
Is this your post or my post?
This is yours. This
No.
was a repost, probably like an older one.
Oh, I do it once a year, I think, when I'm feeling that there's no right in the world, I guess. I think I try to remember when I post these things. If someone has a mental illness and are struggling, we sort of tend to like a we sort of tend to stay away from them, or we don't know how to interact with them, or we just say, "Oh, it's just something," and we move on. But if the same person had a broken leg or had cancer, have so many of the. I don't even know if this makes sense to this statement, but we have so many more answers and ways to help someone who has a broken leg or has cancer, because there's immediately food meals and people are going another way and they're doing things. But when someone's struggling and you have that ability, regardless of what it is, and you have that ability to right that ship, I think we as humans have to. And I think this one spoke to me a lot of like not letting someone suffer alone, because we all suffer alone. I mean, we do it regardless if you say you don't have problems. There's problems that you're not talking about, or your friends don't know about, or because you're not sharing, or because it makes you vulnerable. But you yourself have the ability to help someone get out of that situation, or make them stay in it, or just continually giving negative energy to negative energy versus giving positive energy to negative energy. But I think that's why I posted the one part, is it's just the easier of trying to help someone when that person thinks there's no one to help them.
Yeah, and like as this starts, like, you are the decisive element. I love that you pulled in the whole relational aspect to this, because that's not really how. Because the quote ends with, yeah, treating people and treating others, but to me, the rest of that, everything before it, is mostly about. I thought of it as myself and how I see the world. It's like, if I wake up in this mood, it's kind of on me to change it, in a sense. I don't love the wording of that, but it's more of, it's just like, it's perspective. It's I I can decide if I want to be to go back to the last one, if I want to leave it better than when I found it or I don't, if I want to uh, build someone up or break someone down, if I decide today's a good day or a bad day, a lot of it really is perspective in terms of a lot of what we talked about, right? Good day, bad day, right? Like you could be having a bad day and then think about, well, I get to do all this stuff. Look at all the stuff that I got to do today. And it's a lot of gratitude. And that's not to say that at the same time, it's not like sometimes you can just like think your way through this stuff. Like you can know this quote, this saying, and things can still be hard. I guess the point that I'm getting at is I think sometimes we can maybe think things are too big of a deal and we blow them up in our heads when that can easily be diffused by kind of honestly what we've already talked about. And then I think that does bleed into treating other people and building other people up as opposed to breaking them down.
Yeah, I think teachers, coaches have this in the back of their head. The instrument, I can be an instrument of torture or inspiration. I mean, there's times when there's teachers who kid comes in late to their class and it's immediately why you're late. Where's your pass? I don't have a pass. Get out. Versus, well, where's the human aspect of that? Like, Brian, why are you late today? And then you find out that maybe the kid, his car broke down or he doesn't have heat. And we're dealing with so many other issues without knowing and giving a response, and instead of waiting and trying to, you don't have heat, they're living all in the same room, they don't know where their next meal is coming, and we're worried about them being late to class or on time to class or their homework's done or not done.
Hmm.
um, but those are things that I want to say teachers across America, or some are doing really well because they've had built that relationship. Some are doing really poorly because, like we said, it's not my job.
Hmm.
I don't have to leave his world better than I found it. I had to leave mine better. So,
Hmm.
but
All right, last one. And, I think this is a good one because it ties back everything that we've talked about and your story. So, one day you will tell your story of how you've overcome what you're going through now, and it will become part of someone else's survival guide.
yeah, I that's that's one for people that I know who are struggling with some mental health issues, or struggling with who they are, and not having the courage or the format to express those things or to talk about them with honestly with people, and then you hold them in for so long that you don't know that we've talked about before, that there's other people that are going through the exact same thing, having the exact same struggles, having the exact same anxiety issues. I mean, um, trying to just make it out the door issues. And if you don't tell your story or don't share it, because it's going to help you against in the long run, because then you just, they talk about like if you're having like a negative thought, to accept the negative thought, realize it's there, and then replace it with a positive thought. And that's a different issue and a longer thing. But so there was, when I think Crunch Fitness was by Stratford High. I think it was
Yeah.
Crunch, and then it was something else.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like a Five Below, I think.
Oh, really? Yeah. Is it like a
So
dollar
there was
store?
a person who was there at the gym the same time I used to go to, and she'd be riding a bike sort of the same time. And then I noticed that she had like some cuts on her wrists. Went on for like 6 months, and then she just wore sleeves. And we'd say hi or nothing, but we'd never like have a deep conversation. It was always like we were at the same time,
Hmm.
exactly the amount, and then we'd get off at the same time. And then probably like 2 years in, she wasn't wearing a sweatshirt anymore, and she had like tattoo there. And then I was getting off. I wiped my bike down. I was like, those are really cool tattoos. And I sort of just left it at that. Um, I wish that in the bike ride, if we ever had that moment to like to talk about what she was going through, I don't know if I could have been any help to her,
Hmm.
but she just smiled when I said, I like your tattoos. And I thought that was just an interesting connection to if I just, I think innately I try to help people. I'm also afraid on the other side of like, I shouldn't be, but like someone not wanting help. And that's a
Hmm.
tough person for someone who is a provider or a protector, that your an instinct is to give help or to protect or to fix. But if that person on the other side isn't ready for that, you it's sort of fruitless to do so.
Hmm.
And that's with everything. That's with life and relationship or someone asking for help. And but help can always come when you're willing to accept the help,
Hmm.
and then it comes a lot more freely. But you still have to be willing to accept it,
Yeah.
understand there's a problem first, or whatever your problems are at the time.
Yeah. No, I love that story too because I mean, I would argue that you did help them just by complimenting their tattoo, right? Because that means so much more to them, probably based on just speculating what the situation was. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think along those lines, it's you hear like ask people what they need. Do you need advice? Do you just need comfort? Do you just need a hug right now? I feel like that's like it's an uncomfortable question to ask. Uh, but I think it's an important one, and I feel like especially when I don't know, maybe that person went through something recently. There's stages to grief and hard times, but I think initially we often just want the comfort and someone to just sit in the mud with us and know that I am not alone in this. Whether that's you sharing your story that's maybe similar, or it's just you being a comforting friend saying, I'm going to sit here and just be with you and feel for you. My life can be going great, but that doesn't mean anything. Like I'm just going to be here and be a good friend for you. But I think at some point it all goes back to communication, but yeah, at some point there is a time and place to give that advice. And I think sometimes we are too quick to give that advice, and that's when it can fall on deaf ears.
Or we become angry with the person because they don't want our help.
Hmm.
Like we said, when they're not ready for it, and then you stop texting or you stop calling the person, and then months turn into years or something, and you've lost this relationship or this connection with someone for no other reason than that your need wasn't being fulfilled because I wanted to help you. And I
Hmm.
think I think that probably happens more often than not, that our friendships sort of ebb and flow into good times and bad times, and then when there's a bad time, we don't know how to. One side, we don't know how to ask for help.
Hmm.
Second side, we don't know how to give help. And now we're saying like I'm just saving space for you. Like I'm
Hmm.
here. I'm along with you when you need something. I'll be there, but I'm not going to keep drilling you and asking questions. And
Hmm.
that was a lesson learned later in my life that's sort of been a little bit beneficial with dealing with my own kids, with my relationship with my wife, with my coaching, with my teaching. It's I don't know what you're going through, and I would never, and I'm not dumb enough to say I do, but I will save space for you when that time comes when you want to talk about it.
Yeah. And just with the quote, like your story becoming someone else's survival guide. I thinking about this, I had this quote, and this is one from your Facebook. Um, I had a thought a few months ago for myself that I did not share with other people because I didn't know how to word it. But this quote encapsulates what I was thinking at the time. And at the time, trying to build core life clarity. What am I doing? Just going through my own personal struggles with all of this. I had the thought of your if you like helping people, right? And I would say most people do. But if you really like helping people, then the challenges and the struggles that you go through, like dealing with something hard, it's actually a good thing. You can reframe it as a good thing because that means eventually you're going to be able, just as the quote says, you're going to be able to help someone else with that same struggle, and that's really what I'm having a weird deja vu moment right now. But that's basically what quarter life clarity, like that's what we're trying to do with this is, and that's why it's so important to share your story. Um, and again, like if you're someone that loves to help people, eventually at some point sharing your story is going to help someone, but the hard stuff, the struggle, the difficulty is a prerequisite almost to helping someone else. And I feel like that's just a good mental reframe for if you're going through a struggle. And that's something that I've thought about myself, and am currently kind of living in it. Like if quarter life my quarter life crisis, so to speak, breakup, career struggles, all the things that I've gone through, if those things don't happen, I'm not able to help other people with their own stuff. And I love to help people, and so I'm grateful for it. Do you have any final words of wisdom for a quarter lifer? I'm 27. You know.
27. Yeah. I don't know if I have a final one offhand.
Yeah.
I would say, now I'm thinking about it, be yourself. What and all that means. Be silly, be angry, be helpful, be quiet, be removed, be engaged. But it's the only way that people are going to really see you and to help you or to spend time with you and to save space with you and to be in your presence if you're just authentically you. And if they don't accept that, then I guess there's probably other people you want to spend your time with.